You're 13. Starving. Rome stinks of sweat, incense, and secrets. It's 1549, and you haven't eaten in 2 days. The gutters overflow with rainwater and waste. The alley you sleep in reeks of piss and plague. Rats nibble near your feet. You dream of warm bread. You wake to cold stone. Your ribs are sharp under your skin. Your lips are cracked. Your prayers feel ignored. You've sold everything, your shoes, your coat, your innocence long ago to a man who paid with silence. And now you reach a market stall. A broken crust left behind. You snatch it, but a hand stops you. Velvet glove. Soft. Heavy with rings. A voice smooth as wine. No need to steal ragazzo. There's more than enough to share. You freeze. He smells like roses, like confessionals, like something expensive you don't understand. His robe is crimson, trimmed in gold. You've never seen fabric shimmer like that. A golden cross dangles from his neck, massive, cold, and blasphemous. You don't know it yet, but the man before you is Giovanni Maria Ciacci del Monte, a powerful cardinal, soon to be Pope Julius III. He'll feed you, clothe you, name you, break you. But right now all you see is a man offering bread, and all you feel is hunger. Come with me, he says. God has plans for you. You follow. Of course you do. What choice does a hungry boy have? The alleys offer death. He offers warmth, a bath, a name, a purpose. But what you're really being offered is a cage wrapped in silk. And the key? You just handed it to him when you accepted that bread. You'll come to understand this too late. But for now your stomach wins. You walk beside him, barefoot and silent. The city doesn't stop to notice. Rome keeps breathing. The bells keep ringing. The church keeps watching. And somewhere behind the curtain of power, another lamb is led toward sacrifice. Before diving into these forgotten stories of survival and suffering, if you enjoy learning about the hidden truths of history, consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more content like this. And please comment below to let me know where you're listening from. You don't know the plague came back last year. Quietly. Not the thunderous death of generations past, just enough to empty orphanages, crowd cemeteries, and leave a new class of invisible children behind. The city overflowed with them. Beggars in pairs. Thieves in gangs. Boys like you, fighting over bones and trash heaps, scraping survival from the filth between the marble walls of churches that preached compassion and practiced something else. You think you're just unlucky. You're not. You're being watched. Every morning, a man with a basket passes your alley. He drops coins in front of the pretty ones. Bread for the ones that follow. Not much. Just enough. 1 coin becomes 2. Then a blanket. Then an offer. Warm shelter, safe work, prayers and meals. The first to vanish is Niccolò. Well, almond eyes, dimples when he smiled. Then Johnny, who had the prettiest singing voice you'd ever heard. Then Marco, who slept under the butcher's archway. One by one they stop showing up. And no one asks questions. The streets don't notice when rats disappear. But they're not gone. They've been chosen. It's a system refined like a sacred ritual. Quiet men with sharp eyes walk the streets. Not priests but not quite laymen either. They ask nothing but remember everything. They track how often you cry at night. Which hands you favor when you steal. Who speaks for you when you're too scared to talk. And when they find a child alone enough, lovely enough, and hungry enough, they bring news back to the palace. Your name rises in whispered reports. He's the right one. Beautiful cheekbones. Not too outspoken. No relatives. Sleeps near the fish market. Moves just before dawn. Del Monte's household has files. Not scriptures. Not sacred texts. Files. Names. Routines. Habits. Measurements. Preferences. By now the man you met has already read pages about you. He knows your mother died screaming in childbirth. He knows your father sold you for labor then disappeared. He knows no one prays for you. He knows you are exactly what he's looking for. A perfect combination of abandonment, desperation, and promise. You didn't catch the glint in his eye when he offered that bread. But others did. Others who know that look. The cardinals whose own robes hide different appetites. The monks who serve and stay silent. The nuns who bury what they see behind downcast eyes. Rome has always been a city of masks. And the church? It wears the finest ones. Behind its sermons are secrets. Behind its saints, shadows. And beneath the splendor of its palaces, a graveyard of innocence. You aren't the first. You won't be the last. But in this moment you are the chosen one. The perfect prey. And everyone who matters already knows it. They called it charity. They called it salvation. But it was a hunt. If you're still watching and haven't subscribed to the History Scar, Ask yourself, how many more boys were chosen in silence while the world turned its head? Don't scroll past history. Expose it. Subscribe. The Vatican is a palace of echoes. Marble halls polished to a mirror's sheen. Statues of saints watching from every corner. But behind the stone angels and golden chalices, there are doors that never appear on blueprints. Corridors only a few ever walk. Passages that lead not to God, but to men like Giovanni del Monte. He's no longer just a cardinal. Within months, he becomes Supreme Pontiff. Pope Julius III. And you? You become something else entirely. They don't call it what it is. They never do. They call it a blessing. They call you a ward, a nephew, an inspiration. But nobody asks how a boy with no name, no training, no bloodline, ends up living inside the apostolic palace. They don't need to. They've seen it before. Julius keeps secrets the same way the church keeps relics. Gilded, guarded, and never spoken of directly. He isn't alone in this. His brother, Balduzzi del Monte, is his right hand, and his enabler. It's Balduzzi who makes sure no doors stay closed to you. Balduzzi who signs the letters that explain your presence. Balduzzi who whispers to servants and makes sure they stay quiet or disappear. But the real mirror of your fate is Cardinal Innocenzo. Younger than most cardinals. Too young. Promoted too fast. Smiling too hard. He was once what you are now. And still is. He avoids your gaze. Not out of pride but recognition. You begin to understand your purpose through subtle lessons. It starts with gifts. Silk shoes, linen shirts, perfumes imported from Alexandria. Then Latin lessons. Not with stern old monks, but gentle tutors who praise every correct syllable like a miracle. They call you brilliant. But the lessons never go deeper than surface charm. You're taught to speak beautifully, not think critically. You're shaped to impress, not to understand. A real education would make you dangerous. Then comes the grooming no one names. The bathing ritual repeats weekly. You're undressed, scrubbed, examined. Oils rubbed into your skin. Wounds noted. Every inch of you catalogued like property. When you ask why, the answer is always the same. Cleanliness is next to godliness. You are told to be grateful. They measure you for robes of red and gold. Teach you how to bow with grace. How to smile without showing teeth. How to carry a wine goblet just so, and how to make eye contact just long enough to appear obedient, but never long enough to challenge. Your letters are read before you receive them. Your dreams? Interrupted by soft knocks at the wrong hours. Your trust? Misdirected toward men who tell you that everything they do is for your good. Julius's hand rests on your shoulder during Mass longer than it should. He calls you his light in dark times. His chosen one. He praises your loyalty in front of others. But always with a weight behind his words. An unspoken understanding. You are becoming his. Not through force. Through dependency. He speaks of love, but builds a cage. He blesses you in public, but owns you in private. And each time he touches your hand you feel it more clearly. This isn't protection. This is possession. And everyone who walks these halls knows it. They know. But they say nothing. Because secrets here are sealed not with locks, but with rituals, robes, and power that answers to no one. They erased these stories from history books. They whitewashed the walls and called them sacred. If you're watching and still haven't subscribed to the History Scar, tell us why in the comments. Because silence helped monsters thrive then, and it still does now. The gifts stop feeling like gifts. At first, you told yourself the touch on your back during prayers meant protection. The hand that lingered on your thigh during supper meant affection. That the long looks across candlelit chapels were admiration. But the glances grow longer. The hands wander. And the warmth that once felt fatherly begins to burn. One evening, Julius summons you to his private study. You walk in barefoot as instructed. The doors close behind you without sound. The room is colder than you expect, the light lower, the incense thicker. He doesn't speak at first. He just watches you. Then he begins to talk, about faith, about devotion, about the nature of obedience. A true servant, he says, does not question the hand of God. You nod. He quotes scripture, verses you memorized in Latin only days before. About the bond between master and disciple. About surrender. About sacrifice. Christ was obedient even unto death, he says, drawing closer. And you, my son, must be obedient in all things. You nod again. Because what else can you do? He reaches for you. This time not in public. Not restrained by performance. His words drip with holiness, but his eyes no longer pretend. When you flinch, his tone shifts. You forget where you were before I found you, he says. You were nothing. Forgotten. Now look at you. touched by God, chosen, blessed. That night something breaks inside you, and he calls it your rebirth. You don't sleep after that. You just lie still and hope morning never comes. The next day the servants act as if nothing has changed. They dress you, feed you, compliment your complexion, but they avoid your eyes. One of them, a young man with graying temples, slips a folded cloth into your palm as he washes your hands. Inside is a single sentence. Beware the chamber with no door. You try to ask what it means, but he's already gone. You start to hear whispers. Not spoken aloud, just fragments. Looks exchanged. Silence that vibrates with warning. One boy, maybe 15, passes you in the hall and whispers just one word, run. You don't ask questions, because you already know there are no answers that don't lead back to him. Soon you're invited to a private mass. But there's no altar, no chalice, no priest, only Julius and robes laid out for you. Red, gold, embroidered with symbols you don't recognize. You're told to kneel, told to repeat words you don't understand. A ritual not found in any book. This is your initiation into what he calls his private clergy, a title with no meaning outside these walls. He places a ring on your finger, a symbol of loyalty, of union, of silent submission. You are no longer just a companion. You are now part of something hidden, something rotten, a sacred secret disguised in silk and ritual. And the chamber with no door? It's not a place. It's what your life has become. A beautiful prison. No locks. No chains. Only obedience. And the slow, suffocating silence of a church that sees everything and speaks nothing. White smoke curls into the Roman sky. Crowds cheer. Bells ring out. Cardinals emerge from the Sistine Chapel in ceremonial procession. The throne of St. Peter has a new occupant. Giovanni Maria Sciacchi del Monte is now Pope Julius III. And as the city rejoices, you're being dressed in finer clothes. Your rags are gone. So are your freedoms. You're no longer just a nameless boy pulled from the street. You are introduced to Vatican society under a new title, Innocenzo Sciacchi del Monte, the Pope's adopted nephew. They use the word nephew like a shield. It explains your constant presence without explaining anything at all. It excuses the lavish gifts, the personal attendance, the private dinners. And most of all, it explains why a teenager is now living inside the papal apartments, only doors away from the most powerful man in Christendom. Your chambers are draped in gold. Your meals are richer than anything you imagined as a starving child. Every need is met before you can speak it. And every moment is accounted for. Because now you belong to him. He no longer needs to hide behind shadows. The elevation to Pope has emboldened him. His visits become nightly. No longer careful. No longer cautious. The hand that once lingered on your shoulder now closes around your throat. The kisses that began as blessings now bruise. He tells you he loves you. He tells you God brought you to him. He tells you that suffering is sacred. You try to believe him because believing anything else is too painful. But there is no longer room for confusion. These are not gestures of affection. These are acts of domination, of ownership. You are not his nephew. You are his obsession. And everyone around you knows. The guards at the papal gates nod silently when you pass, but their eyes are full of pity, or shame, or disgust. The cardinals avert their gaze. Servants whisper in kitchens and corridors. And still no one intervenes. Because this is Rome. And in Rome, power cleanses all sin, especially when it wears a mitre and sits on a throne made of marble and myth. The rumors begin to leak beyond the walls. Whispers of scandal drift through diplomatic circles. Ambassadors raise quiet concerns. Some bishops are troubled. Others shrug. Inside the Vatican, the response is coordinated and cold. Damage control begins. Paintings of you as a pious youth appear in prominent halls. Pamphlets praising your virtue circulate among nobles. Clerical advisors are instructed to refer to you in glowing terms: gifted, humble, divinely favored. Any documents suggesting otherwise vanish from archives. The Pope's inner circle reinforces the narrative: you are not a victim. You are a miracle. And when that isn't enough, coin flows into the hands of those who speak too freely. One bishop who dared to question your presence was sent to a remote monastery in Northern Ireland. He never returned. The cover-up isn't perfect, but it's effective. And while Rome feasts and the world celebrates its new Holy Father, you lie in a gilded bed, wondering if the pain in your ribs is a bruise or a blessing. Wondering if maybe love was never supposed to feel like this. Wondering how long before someone sees what's really happening behind the Vatican's locked doors, and dares to speak. The announcement spreads like wildfire. Barely a year after taking the papal throne, Pope Julius III declares his intent to elevate his so-called nephew to the rank of cardinal. Not an advisor. Not a servant. A prince of the church. One of the sacred few who could one day elect a new pope, or even become one. You're 17. You have no formal education. No theological training. No experience in church affairs. But the red robes are tailored for you anyway. The official story tells of your holiness, your moral wisdom, your miraculous insight in spiritual matters. The Vatican scribes write biographies overnight. Paintings show you kneeling before Christ, head bowed in virtue. But the rest of the world isn't fooled. Spain is the first to protest. The king sends word through a furious ambassador, "This appointment is an insult to the dignity of the church." France threatens to sever diplomatic ties with Rome altogether. The Holy Roman Emperor calls it blasphemy wrapped in silk. Even Protestant reformers, already at war with Catholic excess, pause in stunned silence. The corruption they had long accused the church of? Now paraded openly in red velvet. They begin printing leaflets. Woodcuts of a young boy on the Pope's lap. Satirical sermons denouncing the boy cardinal. Satire turns to scandal. Scandal turns to fury. Inside Rome, whispers echo louder. You become a public joke among diplomats and clergy. Not a symbol of grace, but of rot. The sacred red robe, once the mark of martyrdom, is now associated with your body. With his desires. Cardinals who once stood silent now shift uncomfortably during ceremonies. Some refuse to participate in your elevation. Others comply, faces tight with disgust. But none challenge Julius directly. Because challenging you is challenging him. And that means death. The ceremony takes place in the Sistine Chapel. Michelangelo's ceiling watches silently as the crown of authority is lowered onto your head. The cardinals murmur Latin prayers while avoiding your gaze. The Pope smiles proudly. You smile too. Because you've learned to. But behind your eyes something begins to crack. Each chant of Deo Gratias feels like a nail driven into the hollow space where your soul used to live. You stand in red robes meant to represent a willingness to bleed for Christ. But you know the truth. You already bleed. Every night. Not for Christ. For Julius. And somewhere deep inside you, a voice begins to whisper what you've never dared speak. This is not love. This is not holiness. This is a cage too finely crafted for anyone to see the bars. You leave the chapel a cardinal. But you're still the boy. Still the property. Still the pawn. And the game isn't over. It's just beginning. Do you think the story ends here? It doesn't. It gets darker. Much darker. If you're watching and you haven't subscribed to the History Scar, comment your reason below. Because this part of history isn't forgotten, it's buried alive. By day you are holiness incarnate. You walk among cardinals in crimson robes, nodding solemnly at theologians who pretend not to smirk when you pass. You attend liturgies, stand beside ambassadors, deliver rehearsed blessings to crowds who kneel for your touch. Children press their foreheads to your ring. Old women weep when you cross yourself. They believe the lie. They believe that Pope Julius discovered a boy so pure, so wise, so divinely touched that God himself must have guided the adoption. And Julius believes it too. Or at least, he insists on it so fiercely that even he seems unsure where fantasy ends and memory begins. He calls you his miracle. He commissions artists to paint you beside saints. In one fresco you kneel in a beam of divine light. In another, you lay hands on the sick as though you hold the cure to sin. He orders mosaics and stained glass and hand-copied books that tell the world a story so carefully scripted, it chokes the truth to death. He calls your eyes heaven's windows. Your silence, the voice of purity. Your obedience, proof of sainthood. And when you stand at his side during Mass, he clutches your hand as though it were the chalice itself. Behind closed doors it's different. Behind closed doors he drinks real wine, not sacramental. He strips off your holy garments like wrapping paper, hissing that your body is his salvation. He speaks your name like a hymn, then mutters punishments like curses. You learn not to flinch when he enters your room. You learn how to breathe without showing pain. You learn how to look him in the eye and say thank you when he finally leaves. Because you know the guards outside your door answer only to him. And because you also know that every child who disobeyed before you, disappeared. Your only refuge is paper. Late at night, by the dim light of a stolen candle, you write letters. Never sent. Only hidden. In one you write, "They say I am a cardinal but I feel more like a tomb. I carry the bones of a boy I used to be." In another, "God watches me but he says nothing. Perhaps he cannot see inside these walls." You don't sign them. You dare not. But you fold them carefully and hide them between pages of scripture no one reads. They become your secret confessions, your unsent screams. No one around you speaks the truth. They bow, smile, play their roles. Even the cardinals who recoil when Julius kisses your cheek in public do nothing. The ones who know what happens behind the red velvet curtains simply close their eyes harder when the Pope calls you his angel. And so you continue the performance. Relic by day, ruin by night. And the applause never stops. Because in Rome, truth doesn't matter when power writes the script. The lie begins to crack. At first, it's just murmurs behind cathedral walls. But soon the whispers reach palaces, thrones, crowns. The kings of Europe, men who once bowed before Rome, now glare across maps with clenched jaws. The King of Spain is the first to act. His ambassador demands an explanation. How can the vicar of Christ elevate a boy with no credentials, no virtue, no calling, only a face? France follows. Then Austria. Then the Holy Roman Emperor. One by one, Catholic monarchs threaten to sever ties with the Vatican, to excommunicate those who uphold this scandal. They call for Julius's removal. Inside Rome, the tension sharpens. Guards speak in hushed tones. Cardinals meet behind locked doors. Some speak of schism. Others whisper about poison. Assassination rumors spread like plague. A letter is intercepted, unsigned, written in Latin, promising salvation for the soul who ends this disgrace. Meanwhile, the Protestants seize the moment. Leaflets pour out of German presses like wildfire. Woodcut images show the Pope cradling a half-naked boy on his throne. Pamphlets call Rome the whore of Babylon. Sermons thunder from pulpits pointing to you, the child cardinal, the proof that the church is no longer sacred. Julius dismisses them all. He calls the monarchs envious. He accuses the Protestants of heresy and hatred. He insists your elevation is divine providence. He believes, truly, that the world is not angry at his lust but at your holiness. That their outrage is proof that Satan fears you. He refuses to step down. Refuses to send you away. Refuses to admit the truth. God gave him to me, he says. Who dares take him back? Behind his words is desperation. Because deep down, Julius knows the tides are turning. His papacy is becoming a fortress under siege. Every day brings new letters, new threats, new calls for resignation. But he still won't let you go. Instead, he tightens his grip. Your duties increase. Your appearances multiply. You are paraded more frequently now, not as a relic but as a defense. His proof of righteousness. His holy weapon. And all the while, the boy inside the robes is vanishing. Fewer letters now. Less sleep. The mirror reflects someone you don't recognize, haunted, hollow, and painfully aware that the world sees you as either a symbol or a scandal. But not as a person. Never as a person. Julius thought he was untouchable. Just like so many predators do. But even saints fall. If you're still watching and haven't subscribed to the History Scar, we're begging. Help us expose these truths. Hit that button. Don't stay silent. It ends the way it began, inside a chapel. March 1555. Pope Julius III stands before the altar, lifted high in gold and incense, speaking blessings over a crowd that no longer cheers like it once did. His voice trembles. His hand shakes. The words of the Mass falter on his tongue. Then he stumbles. Gasps echo. The chalice slips from his grasp. He collapses at the foot of the altar, robes pooling like spilled blood. For a moment, no one moves. Then the guards rush forward. The cardinals rise. Poison is suspected. Quietly. Urgently. No one dares speak it aloud, but everyone knows. There were too many enemies, too many threats, too many unanswered letters from kings. They carry him to his chambers. You follow behind. For 6 days he lingers between life and death, ravaged, pale, delusional. His body withers, but his obsession remains intact. He calls for you constantly. My Innocenzo, he whispers. Don't let them take you. They want to separate what God has joined. He cries for his mother, for angels, for absolution. He confesses to no one, but weeps like he has confessed everything. You sit beside his bed, silent. Because what is there left to say? He kisses your hand with lips that tremble from fever. He tells you he'll make it right. That he'll speak your name in heaven. That he'll see to it you are remembered as holy. But you know better. You know that when his eyes finally close, the world will turn on you. Because his power was the only shield you had. And that shield is cracking. On the 6th night his breathing slows. His fingers tighten around yours once, then fall away. Julius III is dead. The bells toll across Rome. Clergy dress in mourning black. Crowds gather to pray. But no one weeps for the man who built a papacy on secrecy and desire. No songs are sung for the boy Cardinal. No one offers you a hand as the new guards arrive. A new pope must be chosen. And with Julius's death, your titles mean nothing. You walk out of the papal apartments with no destination, no allies, no illusions. The gold-threaded robes you wear feel heavier now, like chains. The same priests who once kissed your ring now turn their eyes to the floor. The ones who once called you chosen now call you a mistake. And for the first time since you were pulled from that alleyway, you are truly alone. But this time, not even hunger waits to greet you. Only silence. They don't strip you of your title. They don't dare. To remove a cardinal created by a pope would be to question the infallibility of the papacy itself. And that's a heresy the church won't tolerate, even if it means protecting a scandal. So they choose a quieter punishment. Exile. Not in name. In practice. You are appointed governor of distant territories, small towns no one visits, forgotten dioceses carved out for the sake of convenience. They tell the public it's a promotion, a reward for service. But everyone knows what it really is. A burial in slow motion. You arrive in the first province to cold stares and locked doors. The locals recognize your face. Not from portraits of saints, but from the leaflets. The rumors. The jokes whispered across Europe. They know who you are. Or at least who the world says you are. They expect arrogance. They expect sin. And maybe you did once walk with pride in red velvet. But now you walk quietly, awkwardly, with a posture that's learned more from pain than ceremony. You try to govern. You try to serve. You write letters asking for funds to repair roads, churches, schools. Most go unanswered. You attempt homilies. The villagers don't listen. You attempt reforms. The clergy beneath you ignore them. You try to be the man your title suggests. But titles mean nothing when your voice carries no weight. Eventually you stop trying to lead. You bury yourself in reading. Theology, philosophy, scripture. You search for answers no one will give you. You hire tutors and scribes. You fill notebooks. You study late into the night by candlelight, desperate to earn the legitimacy that was once handed to you like a leash. But legitimacy never comes. The stain follows you everywhere. You live alone in a crumbling villa on the edge of town. No servants. No visitors. Only memories you can't outrun. You dream of his hands. His voice. His bed. And your own voice silent through it all. Years pass. The world forgets your name. And finally, in 1577, you die in obscurity. No funeral. No marble tomb. Just a brief note in the Vatican ledger, and a hurried burial far from Rome. The boy who was promised heaven for obedience, was discarded the moment his silence lost value. A relic of shame. A scar the church refuses to acknowledge. But scars tell stories. And some stories refuse to stay buried. You wanted bread. You got a red hat. You wanted love. You got used. You died forgotten. Don't let history erase him again. Subscribe to the History Scar and leave a comment. What would you say to that boy if you could? This story isn't just about a pope. It isn't just about a boy in red robes or a palace in Rome, or the sins of one man buried beneath marble. It's about the pattern. Because every age has its Julius. Every empire its Innocenzo. And every institution, religious or political, ancient or modern, knows how to wrap cruelty in ceremony, how to dress predators in robes, uniforms, and badges. How to turn abuse into order and silence into policy. The names change. The altars change. But the game never does. Children are still chosen for their loneliness. Still promised salvation in exchange for obedience. Still punished when they speak, erased when they break, forgotten when they no longer serve. And those who protect them? Rare. Outnumbered. Often punished more severely than the abusers themselves. Because the system was never designed to defend the innocent. It was built to protect itself. That's what power does when left unchecked. It hides behind titles. It canonizes cruelty. It rewrites the story and dares you to question it. But some stories refuse to stay quiet. Some names still burn even when history tries to snuff them out. And some truths demand to be told, not because they're comfortable but because silence is how it happens again. So don't look away. Don't scroll past. Because history doesn't repeat. It whispers. And it waits. If this story shook something in you like the video, comment what you're feeling. Share it with someone who still believes power makes people holy. And if you believe these stories matter, if you believe the forgotten deserve a voice, subscribe to the History Scar. We tell the truths that history tried to bury. And we're just getting started.